Well, good morning.
Good morning.
And you're probably wondering, why am I wearing this? I'm a Catholic deacon, and in our liturgy, this is an alb, but it's a monastic cut, which means it's got a big hood, which will become clear as we talk about this prayer practice. I want to make it more universal, but I suspect everyone here is Catholic. If you're not, you don't have to tell me, but if you would raise your hand, it'll change how I present this a little bit. Okay, so what we're going to do is I want to present this in a way that is consistent with monotheistic belief systems, okay? And the reason is that God dwells within in the belief systems of the Abrahamic faiths and even other faith systems. So we're going to do a form of silent prayer, and in that silence there's no dogma. So it brings people together in a way that's very ecumenical. And it's wonderful that way. I want to go through what we're going to talk about. I always like to explain what we're going to talk about. We're going to go through a little bit of the history, the theology, the methodology, the practice, and actually do it, and then the psychology, and then some supplemental material that will be too much volume for you to be worried about, but if it's handed out later, then at least you'll have it. Okay? Let's go through the history first. There are, obviously, every belief system has different aspects to it. The main one, Christianity, is there's Catholicism and Protestantism, etc. But what's interesting is every faith has a contemplative tradition. In Christianity, we call it mysticism, which in Christianity, the term mystical and contemplative are synonymous. They mean the same thing. In Judaism, it's Kabbalah. In Islam, Sufism. Buddhism, meditation. Hinduism, meditation. Okay. Now, obviously, in Buddhism, it's atheistic normally, although Zen Buddhism can allow for a God belief. Now, I've done a Judeo-Christian presentation with a Jewish friend of mine, and I just got back from Turkey giving a presentation at the Rumi University in Konya, Turkey. So there's commonality between all these religions. Now, the Judeo-Christian contemporaries, when I did this presentation with a friend of mine, we compared notes, and throughout history there were contemplatives. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but in the same time frame, there were Jewish contemplatives with Christian contemplatives. That doesn't mean they were communicating with each other, but they end up all in about the same place. Now, the last one is Thomas Keating and Rabbi Schachter, who are the ones that kind of blessed the presentation we did together. And then the contemplative periods. And these are just a summary of the periods. There were scriptural passages that refer to this and imply it. The Desert Fathers and Mothers in Egypt went out, and they were the first monks and nuns of the convents and monasteries. And they were interviewed by a man by the name of John Cassian, and he wrote the Conferences, which is the longest work in Christian antiquity. And it documented what the monks and nuns were doing in Egypt. He was like a news reporter. Then there's various others throughout all the centuries. This is just a small sample. But the bigger ones, more important, Pseudo-Dionysius and Gregory. Pseudo meaning they didn't know who it was, but it was Dionysius. From Dionysius. Bernard of Clairvaux. This is an important one, the Cloud of Unknowing, which was a Benedictine monk who wrote it in England, and we don't know his name. He did it anonymously. And then it was relegated to the cloisters in the 1500s. So normal, everyday people on the street weren't doing it anymore. And then it was considered for a long time to be abnormal. And so the Catholic Church basically said to the monks and nuns, we don't understand what you're doing. These are the Catholic hierarchy. We don't understand what you're doing, We're not telling you not to do it, but it's a mystery to us. And so that's why they got the name mystics. But don't tell those lay people, okay? That was kind of the message. So the monks and nuns continued it. And so during the Second Vatican Council, the conclusion was, come out of the monasteries and convents and start to explore this in public more, okay? And that led to the formation of contemplative outreach by 3 Trappist monks. We have here Father Gilbert Walker, who is on the board of Contemplative Outreach, and a trained presenter, as am I. So I'm not on the board, but he is. So there's been a history of this, and this organization is interdenominational Christian. Okay? And there have been mystical experiences described by people throughout the centuries. The first millennium, second millennium, and modern. And I won't go through all of these, but I'm telling you that this is deep, and when you read these people's works, and I've not read all of them, you'll see there's a commonality to their experiences, which is going to lead to the altered states of consciousness that blends in with the theme of this conference, and we'll talk about that, okay? I especially like Meister Eckhart, a German mystic. The giants in this field really are Teresa of Avila and John of the Cross, both contemporaries in Spain, and they wrote very explicitly what they experienced, and it's stunning. And these experiences continue today. I won't go through all these quotes from the first millennium, but one of them I like is, in the beginning of prayer there is a struggle and a loss of work. After that there is indescribable joy. This is from the conferences. Let me see here. This is an unknown Abba. Abba and Amma are father and mother in Aramaic. And so it says, give me a word, Father. Now that was in 400s. And I want you to remember that request for a word. What were they talking about? Well, we'll find out as we go along. Am I speaking too fast, or does everybody root together? Okay. Second millennium quotes. There are, as I said, I think the giants are Teresa of Avila. Remember, the Lord is within us, and that we should be there with Him. And Meister Eckhart, this is one of my favorites. God is at home. It was we gone out for a walk. God is at home. We went walking, and that's wonderful. And I even put in one by Sigmund Freud. Self-knowledge brings freedom. It is then necessary starting point for healing our past hurts. That in a way captures it, even though Sigmund Freud wasn't necessarily a mystic or a contemplative, okay? So, and then Thomas Merton, our contemplation of him is a participation in his contemplation of himself. Basically, he was saying we're drawn into the Trinity in the Christian tradition, or in other traditions we're drawn into the God within. And then Thomas Keating, the sacred word is a way of letting go of all thoughts. Notice that word that's a similar quote from the 400s. There's a word here that keeps cropping up. The theology, in the Christian tradition, we think when we're praying quite often, we have to have an imagery. No matter what tradition you're in, if you're praying or meditating, there's an imagery that has to go through your head. And quite often, it's in the Christian tradition, it's Father, the Son, or the Holy Spirit. But ultimately, what we're headed toward is imageless, because we cannot know the unknowable. Even our images have to be, we have to be open to our images changing. In fact, if we don't constantly allow our images to change, then we are making God in our image rather than allowing God to make us in His image. That's why we have to be flexible. Prayer meaning, there have been many definitions. There's speaking to God, which is the most common thinking. There's entreat or ask God. Search of the heart, Teresa of Lisieux, St. Teresa of Lisieux from France. Nothing but love, St. Augustine. Longing of the soul, Gandhi. We're going to use what we believe is really the most relational type prayer, and that is prayer as relationship with God, which is Father Thomas Keating, who's still alive, is a Trappist monk. That's his definition. And we're going to go from that point on, because ultimately we want to communicate back and forth. A relationship is back and forth, not just talking to somebody else. And that's the trap I fall into when I'm talking to somebody. I don't listen enough. Now, what is the basis in the Christian tradition of this? It's really a quote from Matthew 6:6. When Jesus was asked, how do you pray? He said, when you pray, go to your inner room, close the door, and pray to your Father in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will repay you. In praying, do not babble like the pagans who think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them. Your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. And only after this did He say, oh, and I'm paraphrasing, if you're going to use words, say the Our Father who art in heaven, etc. So the first response from Jesus here was, go to your inner room, which is what the monks do with this. Yeah. That's why they have it. They're going to their inner room. Close the door, pray to your Heavenly Father in secret, and He will hear you in secret. Do not use a lot of words. Starting to get the context here, okay? Methodology, we draw analogies to human relationships to get an idea of what our relationship with God should be. So, in a human relationship, the first thing is an acquaintance. So, Father, you want to play along with me here and be a volunteer?
Sure.
My name is Bob Hesse, and what is your name?
Gilbert Walker.
Gilbert, nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure.
What are your interests?
I like Spanish. I like to cook.
Oh, great.
I enjoy reading a lot.
Well, we have a lot in common then, so in terms of the food. I'm getting. So we'll have to get together sometime. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
It's a pleasure.
You'll notice it was formal, very formal. What is your name? What is my name? Etc. What are our common interests? And in our relationship with the divine, this is what is called reading or lectio. Okay, and so it might be reading the Gospels and finding out that, well, Jesus liked to eat, actually. This is a kind of interesting thing, you know. He was always eating with his friends, okay? And in other traditions, you would read the traditions of the other faiths, and they kind of approach it the same way in the terms that they have a sacred text. In Catholic liturgy, this is like reading the Gospel of this liturgy, okay, at a Mass, okay. The second is a friendliness, or a, in Catholics can't do without Latin, so you'll have to bear with us. It's a friendliness, in other words, you're thinking about this relationship. And so, Father Gilbert, it was good to eat that meal together. That was fantastic.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
How have you been?
We'll have to, pretty good, pretty good. How are you?
Good.
We'll have to do that again.
Okay.
Okay.
I look forward to it.
Okay. Now we've shared and we're starting to understand each other a little bit better. Okay. And that in prayer with the divine is like thinking, meditatio. Now in the word, actually, meditatio is engagement of the thoughts, even though in some word traditions, the word meditation can imply without any thoughts. But in this context, the word meditatio, word source word, actually is engaging in thoughts. So the definitions are a little different than you might hear in popular terminology. And in the liturgy at a Mass, it's the homily, that basically the person gets up, it might be a deacon or a priest, and explain what the words meant in that scripture passage, and what, you know, why did God eat together with others, or whatever. The next is friendship, And this is speaking or oratio in the divine relationship. So in a human relationship, this is where it might go. Father Gilbert, I understand you were really sick, and you know that I'll do anything for you.
Oh,
you
thank
know
you.
That.
I appreciate that, Bob.
And I know you would do the same for me.
You're right.
Yeah.
I sure would.
Thank you, Father.
Thanks.
You notice now I'm offering help, and he's offering help back. And in the divine relationship, this is the oratio. This is the speaking to God and asking for help. Now, most of us in our prayer practice plateau at that level. We're asking God for help. And then in the liturgy, in a Mass, it's the prayer petitions, basically, where you're asking God for specific things, okay? This is a valid form of prayer. It's a wonderful form of prayer. And what we're going to talk about here today is not to give up this form of prayer, but there's a deeper level. There's a deeper level. And what is that deeper level? It's union. And in the human relationship, we hug somebody, we kiss them, and we know each other's pain already. Why say anything? In fact, the words get in the way. It just destroys it. And so this blessed embrace is wordless. And that's the divine union that we want to seek in being with God, just being with God. And as contemplation, okay? And in Latin, contemplatio. And you go through these different phases. Now, in the liturgy, it's communion, okay? And so we're going deeper, notice? And after all, what led me to this was God, I know. But what led me to it is I was asking God for things, and I started to realize that he was a smart guy. He already knew. What am I telling him what I need? He knows. And then I might even go further and say, and I want you to do it this way, okay? And what we're doing in union is we're saying, you do whatever you wish, and I'm there to accept it. Help me do your will. So there's an embrace without a command on what we want or how to do it, okay? So what are these prayer practices? Well, there are, in these previous four steps, the first three are discursive, or what in Greek is cataphatic. And they can be either goal-oriented or non-goal-oriented. And in the interest of research, there have been Templeton studies on this. They've been inconclusive. And the reason, I believe, is because we're trying to put ourselves in command in a certain sense. We don't know what God's going to do. So what are we looking for in science, you know? The second, or the last one, contemplative, is apophatic. And that is both intending to be with God and consenting to whatever God does. Now, what does that mean? Well, these are the prayer fundamentals. We start and we don't seek anything. Now, in spite of the fact that research is showing tremendous benefits to this prayer practice, when we actually do it, we cannot do it, and this is important, we cannot do it with the intention of getting anything out of it, even though research says that often we do. The reason is, if we try to get something out of it, we're putting ourselves in charge, and we're not allowing God to do whatever God wants to do. Okay? So our intention is to be in God's presence. Our consent is to God's presence in action within whatever God wants to do. And so whatever happens is gift. So in spite of what the research shows, and I'm going to get into that a little bit, when you actually do it, you cannot enter this to get anything out of it. And I love the first line of the Song of Solomon. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. And after all, when you're kissing somebody, how can you speak at the same time? It's like the divine hug. I mean, it's a wordless act. Prayer definitions, and this is important. We've been talking about contemplative prayer in a general way. Centering prayer is a method to facilitate contemplative prayer. Contemplation is an opening the whole being to God. Now, what does that mean? Centering prayer is what we do. Contemplation and the result is what God does. So when we do centering prayer, all we're wanting to do is be with God. Okay. So, the centering aspects, well, it's relationship with the indwelling God. And so, in presentations that I've done with Muslims and with Jews, most of the faiths believe in God dwelling within. And so it gets back to this idea of an ecumenical way of drawing people together. Okay? Because in that drawing together, there's no dogma. And it just happened with me in Turkey and with Muslims, and in Houston we've done it with Jews. The next is discipline. You must practice. My wife, who passed away recently, she played piano. She played Rachmaninoff. I want to tell you, you don't sit down and play Rachmaninoff. You've got to practice. And this is the same way. You've got to practice this every day. Okay? Centering guidelines. You want to take over here, Father?
Sure. Hablamos de pautas, no de reglas ni leyes en esto. Perdónenme que les hable en español, pero yo estoy más acostumbrado a presentar esto en español que en inglés. Así que me van a disculpar. Si hay alguna pregunta, alguna inquietud, me dicen. Hablamos de pautas, no de normas. Escogemos en un momento de oración un símbolo sagrado. Para la mayoría de nosotros eso sería una palabra. Pero el símbolo no es importante en sí. Es importante en tanto y cuanto sea símbolo de nuestra intención, de consentir, abrirnos a la presencia y a la acción de Dios en nuestras vidas. Asumimos una postura cómoda. Para la mayoría será sentados. Una postura que mantenga la columna derecha. Una postura relajada, pero no tan relajada como para inducir el sueño. Tratamos de mantener la cabeza erguida, pero no rígida. Si estamos conscientes de tensión en alguna parte del cuerpo, la dejamos ir. Las manos pueden estar en el regazo, sobre las piernas, palmas abajo, arriba, como sea más cómodo. Es para que el cuerpo entre también en la dinámica de la oración y no sea un estorbo. Cuando nos damos cuenta de que nos hemos dejado llevar por algún pensamiento, retornamos con mucha suavidad a la palabra sagrada o al símbolo sagrado. No utilizamos la palabra como un mantra, que eso es una distinción importante. Hay otros tipos de oración mántrica, inclusive en la cristiandad, en nuestra fe, pero esto no es un mantra, porque un mantra significa una repetición constante. El símbolo sagrado le echamos mano cuando lo necesitamos, no en otro momento. No es constante, aunque quizás en el principio tengamos que utilizarlo con cierta frecuencia, ¿no? Y la cuarta pauta es, después del tiempo de oración, normalmente 15 o 20 minutos, tomamos 2 o 3 minutos de silencio para que las facultades nuestras se ajusten a la conciencia ordinaria. Hay distintos tipos de símbolos sagrados. Algunas personas utilizan más una palabra. Yo suelo utilizar una palabra que es la práctica mía, y la palabra que utilizo, bueno, en inglés mi idioma nativo, es Señor. porque expresa para mí la relación que yo tengo con Dios y mi deseo de abrirme a Él. Pero podría ser Abba, que es Padre, Dios, uno, nada, paz, amor, amén. En sí la palabra no es importante. Como imágenes, una nube, una estrella, la luz, una llama. ¿Cuándo es mejor hacer este tipo de oración? Cuando estemos relajados pero al mismo tiempo alerta. Antes de comer, porque si lo hacemos ya con la barriga llena, nos cuesta más entrar en la dinámica de la oración. Se sugiere un mínimo de 20 minutos, porque se ha visto que necesitamos un cierto tiempo para ir entrando en la dinámica de la oración así. Si se puede hacer en la mañana antes de entrar en las actividades del día, y por la tarde al terminar el trabajo y antes de quizás comer, pues son momentos bastante adecuados para la oración. ¿En dónde? Un ambiente relativamente tranquilo, sin luces demasiado fuertes, en un lugar y un momento en que ojalá no nos interrumpa mucho. Uno lo puede practicar a solas o en un grupo. De hecho, aquí en La Habana tenemos 4, 5, quizás 6 grupos en distintas parroquias donde se practica la oración. Hay 2 grupos que se reúnen en la capilla que está al lado de las Mejeras, en la Inmaculada. Yo soy cura ahí, así que tenemos 2 grupos ahí. Hay una señora, una laica, que facilita los grupos. ¿With what? ¿Con qué? Bueno, con una silla cómoda, pero fuerte. Quizás con un despertador suavecito que no te vaya a causar una impresión demasiado fuerte, ni un ruido demasiado estridente. Con ropa cómoda. Hay personas que les gusta comenzar o con un versículo de las Escrituras o con un canto que se puede repetir. ¿Cómo? Con la columna derecha, la cabeza libre, erguida, pero no rígida, los pies bien en el piso y con los ojos cerrados. Al cerrarnos los ojos es también un símbolo de nuestro deseo de entrar en nuestro interior, en nuestro centro, y estar con Dios que habita en lo más profundo de nuestro ser. Algunas citas. Entregarnos al desconocido o al no conocido. El amor de Dios nos sostiene, nos acurruca sin cesar. Citas del padre Thomas Keating. El hombre tiene ahora 92 o 3 años, pero está tan claro, impresionante. No dejemos que las palabras nos interrumpan, sean obstáculos. Sé compasivo, aquí estoy. De un rabino judío, Salman Shachter Shalom. Cuando uno se sienta a hacer este tipo de oración, lo más seguro es que vamos a tener un montón de pensamientos. Eso es normal. Y después vamos a hablar cómo responder a los pensamientos. Pero vamos a tratar de clasificarlos un poquito. Hay pensamientos comunes y corrientes. Apagué las luces del carro. Hay una llamada telefónica que yo tenía que hacer a mi tía y se me olvidó hacerlo. ¿Qué vamos a comer esta noche?
Esa es una pregunta muy
Los niños hicieron la tarea.
La de carne no, pero eso sí.
Sí, sí. Efectivamente.
¿Qué vamos a hacer mañana?
No, eso es a montones. Bueno, otro tipo de pensamientos son las atracciones y las aversiones. Esa persona me sacó de quicio. Sí, eso es bastante común también. Cuando nos queremos aquietarnos, comienzan a surgir todas las preocupaciones de la vida y otras cosas. Pero a veces son pensamientos con una carga de atracción o aversión. Otro tipo de pensamientos, podemos experimentar un cierto tipo de iluminación o pensamiento donde vemos con claridad un asunto que nos tenía preocupado o atormentado. Aquí uno que aspira a ser teólogo, ahora sí yo comprendo cómo es la vida interior de la Santísima Trinidad. Figúrate. Hay otro tipo de reflexiones más introspectivas. Ay, no me va tan bien en esta oración centrante. No lo hago tan bien. Puede ser tipo evaluativo, que muchas veces nos evaluamos y en esta oración dejamos ir eso. Y hay otro tipo de pensamientos, sobre todo que no tienen nada que ver con lo que hemos estado pensando en la vida diaria, que llamamos la descarga del inconsciente. Se nos pueden basar imágenes o pensamientos. Ahora sí recuerdo ese dolor o esa herida de mi niñez. La descarga del inconsciente. Tratamos a todo este tipo de pensamientos de la misma forma. Los dejamos ir. Suavemente. Sin fuerza, sin rechazar, sin esforzarnos por quitarlos. Sencillamente los dejamos ir. ¿Cómo los dejamos ir? Retornando a la palabra sagrada, al símbolo sagrado. En las Escrituras, primero del Antiguo Testamento, el profeta Isaías dice Dios, mis pensamientos no son tus pensamientos, ni mis caminos son tus caminos, dice el Señor. Y en el Nuevo Testamento, el apóstol Pablo dice, en este momento vemos sin claridad, como si fuera un espejo. Ahora yo veo o conozco parcialmente. Hablamos de las 4 R's. No resistir a los pensamientos. No retener a los pensamientos. No reaccionar emocionalmente a los pensamientos. Y sí, retornar muy suavemente al símbolo sagrado o la palabra sagrada. En esta oración es una oración de mucha suavidad. El único esfuerzo que hacemos, que es mínimo, es cuando nos damos cuenta de que nos hemos dejado llevar por algún pensamiento. Volvemos con mucho sosiego a la palabra sagrada. Así los dejamos ir. Y dejamos ir la palabra sagrada también, que es un símbolo, lo utilizamos cuando la necesitamos y cuando no. Ahí está.
So, we can make the question now or at the end?
Sure, you can
In
answer.
Spanish?
Como quieras.
And then we can translate if you want. Pero, a ver, tiene mucho en común con la meditación. Veo, ¿no? Yo normalmente no hago este tipo de oración. Pero se refiere de todas formas a ello como oración. Quiere decir que de todas formas hay un diálogo. ¿O no?
Hay una
porque
relación.
no es repetitivo,
Sí.
como una mantra, pero hay un diálogo de todas formas. O una conversación.
En este tipo de oración no. Hay relacionalidad sin diálogo.
Entonces, silencio y no median frases silentes, nada. Es solo mente en blanco y dejar ir.
No ponemos la mente en blanco porque sería un ejercicio de la frustración. Pero los pensamientos los dejamos ir. Es una oración de presencia, en vez de conversar con Dios o dialogar con Dios, que se puede hacer en cualquier otro momento, ¿no?
Sí.
Es una oración en que estamos con Dios.
Ah.
En que, bueno, cuando pasamos por esos 4 momentos, primero dialogamos un poquito, después
Como
me
el
preguntó,
abrazo.
el abrazo. Este es un abrazo, nos dejamos abrazar por Dios, nos dejamos amar por Dios. Somos no pasivos, sino receptivos en este tipo de oración. Porque se supone un desarrollo de la relación con Dios, como nosotros lo entendamos. Ay, perdón. Dice Juan Casiano en el V siglo, la mente rechaza la gran riqueza y abundancia de pensamientos. El alma derrama a Dios oraciones sin palabras. Ahora la práctica. En inglés esta palabra engaged se traduce al español como enganchado, pero no me gusta enganchado porque tiene una carga un poco negativa.
Involucrarse.
Podría ser. Yo prefiero otra traducción que hizo una señora de México, cuando nos dejamos llevar por nuestros pensamientos. Que no hay un juicio ahí, pero si estamos enganchados es como una cosa medio negativa. Cuando nos dejamos llevar por los pensamientos, volvemos muy suavemente. Back it up.
Oh, no. Forward. There. Give it time. Give it time. Right there.
Vendrá. Volvemos muy suavemente a la palabra sagrada. Y cuando no lo necesitemos, también la dejamos ir. Ahí está. Thanks, Bob.
Well, go ahead, see what it says. Yeah, you keep going.
En esta oración no hablamos de resultados, porque un resultado es algo que uno busca. Hablamos de frutos, que es un proceso orgánico. Uno de los frutos es la descarga, diríamos menos pesados o menos cargados. ¿Por qué? Porque se está en el inconsciente nuestro evacuando una serie de material que a veces nos mantiene bastante cargados. Otro fruto podría ser la paciencia, la paz, el ser afable, la mansedumbre, la generosidad, la caridad, el amor, la castidad, la alegría. Estos frutos no se manifiestan durante el tiempo de la oración. Eso es muy importante porque muchas veces estamos tan orientados hacia una meta. En esta oración dejamos ir las metas. Nuestra única intención es estar con Dios y abrirnos a su presencia y a su acción entre nosotros. Los frutos no se manifiestan durante el tiempo de la oración, ni tampoco instantáneamente. No se habla de causa y efecto, pero la oración va produciendo frutos en nuestra vida. El propósito de la oración es seguir desarrollando la relación con Dios. Dios mismo es quien inspira y nos invita a esta relación. Y los frutos son impredecibles. No vamos a saber de antemano qué quiere hacer Dios en nosotros. Sencillamente consentimos. Esta oración, como decía Bob, no es para reemplazar otros tipos de oración. Si a ti te gusta rezar el rosario, muy bien, te quedes con el rosario. Si a ti te gusta visitar distintas iglesias, vas a las iglesias. Si a ti te gusta leer la Biblia, sigue para adelante con eso. Pero pone en un contexto contemplativo las otras prácticas de oración y las profundiza. Y los frutos no siempre son de gozo, Hay frutos que nos cuestan trabajo asimilar. Hay frutos que nos van a retar y nos van a ir transformando. Los frutos pueden llevarnos al crecimiento personal, la capacidad de escuchar mejor, juzgar un poco menos a los demás. En las relaciones interpersonales aprendemos a responder y no reaccionar. A veces nos damos cuenta de los cambios, las transformaciones que se van dando, pero otras veces las personas a nuestro alrededor se dan cuenta antes que nosotros mismos. Otro fruto podría ser el servicio a los demás. Podemos llegar a ser un poco menos egocentristas y podemos ser un poco más o encontrarnos más orientados hacia los demás. ¿Cómo se extiende estos frutos en nuestra vida diaria? Tratamos de hacer oración 2 veces al día, por la mañana y por la tarde. Leer las Sagradas Escrituras o los textos sagrados de la tradición de uno. El padre Thomas Keating escribió un libro, que es una de sus obras maestras, ¿no? Que se llama, ha sido traducido al español, Mente Abierta, Corazón Abierto. Yo lo tengo en formato digital, ha sido publicado en español, pero estamos revisando la traducción porque fue hecha por una persona que no practicaba la oración, por eso había que revisarla y quisiéramos publicarlo aquí en Cuba, inclusive, que nos resulta más barato publicar aquí, imprimirlo aquí que fuera y traerlo. Participar en un grupo de oración, el apoyo de los demás, sobre todo en un principio, es importante. Y desarrollar o tener un programa de seguimiento, de lectura, de servicio. Utilizar otro tipo de oración que llamamos la oración activa, que nos va filtrando a la conciencia, pero eso sí es más mántrica, que se repite, pero no es una palabra, sino más bien una frase. Esas son formas de extender los frutos. Los efectos físicos, que eso se ha medido, baja la presión arterial, las personas suelen ser un poco menos melancólicas, sufren menos, hay menos nerviosismo, menos ira, y el cuerpo, como experimenta el descanso profundo que lleva, que muchas veces nos ofrece la oración, el cuerpo va necesitando menos sueño. Una de las cosas que, una cita yo creo que vimos muy brevemente, de Gregorio Magno, que era un papa en el siglo VI. Gregorio definía la contemplación como el descanso en Dios. Y ese es el tipo de contemplación al que aspiramos nosotros a descansar en Dios. Descansar más allá de los pensamientos, más allá de las palabras, más allá de las imágenes, más allá de las emociones. Pero no vamos buscando nada que no sea Dios mismo. O sea, ponemos el listón bastante alto. Yo tengo una amiga dominicana, yo viví en República Dominicana 6 años antes de venir aquí a Cuba. Y esa amiga dominicana me dijo: Gilberto, en este tipo de oración vamos a Dios por Dios pelado. Por Dios pelado, buscando a Dios solo y por sí mismo. No es una oración interesada, es una oración gratuita. No sé si me explico. Como si vamos buscando a otra persona, podemos buscarla porque disfrutamos de estar con él o con ella, o podemos buscarlo para resolver un problema, para que me saque de un apuro, para que me resuelva una situación. Y cuando hay una buena amistad, también uno puede buscar a la persona por eso. No vamos a dejar de orar de otras formas, vamos a pedirle a Dios lo que nos hace falta, pero también vamos a disfrutar de Dios. porque es Dios. No sé si me explico.
Sí.
¿Qué tal si entramos en la práctica? ¿Les gustaría? Bueno, les invito, llevamos un tiempecito sentados, les invito a ponerse de pie, estirarse un poquito.
Okay.
Tranquilo, practice. Es importante para que el cuerpo pueda entrar en la dinámica también de la oración.
Perfect. Would you do me a favor? Go back there, turn the lights out, and guard the doors so nobody comes in, because we're going to be in silence and quiet. Okay?
Vamos a ir bajando las luces y entrando en... Yo tengo una cosita aquí en el teléfono que suena una campanita para comenzar los 20 minutos y después para marcar el final. Así que espero que ustedes también lo pueden escuchar. Si me permiten, nos vamos a sentar.
También hace las luces.
Muy bien, gracias. Vamos a tomar un momento para escoger un símbolo sagrado, una palabra o una imagen. Algunos ejemplos podrían ser Dios, amor, paz, luz, amén, sí, Señor, Jesús, o cualquier otra palabra que le guste. No vamos a cambiar la palabra durante el tiempo de la oración, porque es sencillamente un símbolo de nuestra intención de consentir a la presencia y la acción de Dios en nosotros. Nos sentamos cómodamente, la columna derecha, los pies sobre el piso, las manos en el regazo o sobre las piernas, como sea más cómodo. Cerramos los ojos también, como el símbolo de que vamos entrando a nuestro centro, dejando ir las cosas exteriores y también las cosas interiores. Con mucho sosiego introducimos la palabra sagrada, nuestra palabra de amor, como el símbolo nuestro de nuestro consentimiento a la presencia y la acción de Dios en nosotros. Cuando nos dejamos llevar por algún pensamiento, muy suavemente volvemos a la palabra sagrada. Va a sonar la campana una vez para indicar que vamos entrando en la oración. Igualmente va a sonar para marcar el final de nuestro tiempo de oración. Después que suene la última vez, tomamos 1 o 2 minutos de silencio para que nuestras facultades se ajusten a la conciencia ordinaria. listos. Vamos a abrir los ojos. Les agradezco mucho su colaboración, su participación en este tiempo de oración, de experiencia. Quizás tengan algunas preguntas o comentarios o inquietudes al respecto. Sí.
¿Este periodo de tiempo de 20 minutos es internacionalmente o puede variar a París?
Podría variar, o sea, 20 minutos a veces en algunos retiros más extensos. Babi y yo nos conocimos en un retiro de 8 días y en ese retiro practicábamos 3 horas, no seguidas, pero 1 hora por la mañana, otra por la tarde y otra ya tarde-noche. Y puede ser 15 minutos es mejor que nada, 10 minutos es mejor que 5, pero...
No, le digo porque a los efectos de la vida práctica en el hogar, algo como esto, ¿no? Que realmente produce un buen estado de, como dice ahí, de relajación, prácticamente se va
sí.
Es un poco difícil, ¿no? A no ser cuando ya los muchachos están durmiendo, también en el horario nocturno,
sí.
Poderlo hacer uno, ¿no? En el hogar,
Claro.
porque realmente, nada, lleva tiempo, ¿no? El efecto es como usted decía.
Es difícil, muy difícil, porque los pensamientos interrumpen constantemente y uno tiene que recuperar la palabra. Yo me llamo a mí misma mirando hacia atrás muchas veces.
Pues yo también.
Muchas veces.
Muchas gracias. Yo conozco, bueno, he oído hablar de una señora que cuando ella va a hacer la oración, ella se traje en el baño, porque es el único lugar en la casa donde ella sabe que no la van a molestar.
Y hay más de un baño.
Y hay más de un baño. Efectivamente.
¿Verdad que te interrumpe constantemente muchas veces?
Sí. No hablamos nunca en este tipo de oración de distracciones, porque una distracción es algo negativo. Fíjense bien que para nosotros los pensamientos, por eso no los rechazamos, los dejamos ir, pero no los rechazamos, porque muchas veces los pensamientos contienen lo que necesita ser sanado en nosotros. Y el silencio interior crea el espacio para que esa sanación se dé. No sé si me expliqué con eso.
Sí.
No hay duda de que debe bajar la presión.
Sí.
La primera que usted tiene puesto es la diapositiva, no hay dudas.
Sí. It lowers blood pressure, and we've just been sharing a bit about how it can be difficult at home to find the right time and space.
Yeah.
Maybe after the kids are in bed. I was explaining, I've heard of a lady who goes in the bathroom and shuts the door because she knows she won't be interrupted. And so
It doesn't go to the toilet. Yeah.
if there's another bathroom in the house. Sure.
You want me to continue?
Sure.
Would you please go out and apologize to these people because we're running late, and maybe another 10 minutes. Can you stand another 10 minutes? And I wanted to go into the research side of this. Now, quite often the spiritual effects or the feeling more peace is very often reported. It's very common. But in about 5 to 10% of the people, and this is anecdotal, they report contemplative experiences. And these can be a sense of oneness, omnipresence in the universe, timelessness. How long did you think this prayer lasted when you came out? How long did it feel? Short? Most people say it felt like 5 minutes when it's 30. So you lose a sense of time. There's a spaceless. Some people will not feel their hands. Some people will actually have out-of-body experiences. And there's a wholeness or a sense of perfection, okay? Now, Jesus charged them to not tell the vision to anyone, talking about the transfiguration. When people have these contemplative experiences, they don't talk about them. And there are reasons why they don't talk about them. One is people think they're crazy. Trust me. 2, words are inadequate. You can't describe the experience. 3, there's a memory loss. You can't remember everything. Then you attempt, if you hear somebody say they had something like this, you attempt to emulate them, to do the same thing. You can't do that. It's gift. And the 3rd is you might feel a little bit inadequate. I was in a state of serious sin and I had that experience. So it's not a measure of holiness, okay? It's a measure of God reaching out and saying, I love you. And if you do not receive this, that's okay. Remember, all you're letting go of is God's control on you. You can do whatever, He can do whatever He wants. The spirit and the soul, I won't get into this because we're a little bit running late here. But the false self, we try to have peace. We're designed for peace and happiness. And we seek it in areas that are not appropriate. But the true self is where the God is that dwells within. And Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, have you heard of that? Science believes you can't know the location and momentum of an electron. Now that may sound, well, who cares? But basically Heisenberg and these uncertainty principles, scientists agree on it, that by its very design, nature cannot be totally known, even by scientists. And Thomas Merton had a quote, "The uncertainty principle is oddly like St. John of the Cross, one of the mystics. As God is in the highest, eludes the grasp of concepts, so the ultimate constitution of matter. Heisenberg shows a fabulous new concept of nature with ourselves in the midst of it and destroys simple illusion of ourselves as detached and infallible." Merton was a Trappist monk. Fortunately, I was at a monastery where he was at, but I never met him. And he's very early on in this practice. I've had some anecdotal observations about this. I taught a man this, and 3 months later he came back, and I said, "How is it going?" And he said, "I started to dream at night what really happened to me in Vietnam." I said to him, "Then what did you do?" And he said, "During the day I became fully aware." Now he was a PTSD patient, post-traumatic stress disorder. I asked him the next question, and it gives me goosebumps to listen and remember. I said, "What did you do then?" And he said, "I ever so gently let it go and return to God." I told this to the head of the psychiatric department of Baylor College of Medicine. And he looked at me, his mouth dropped. Now he's Christian, but he doesn't know about this. He said, "We can't treat PTSD patients. We're struggling. There is room here for a lot of research. Chemo patients have felt peace. It's been taught in penitentiaries where people are locked up, but God, they cannot lock up their mind. So God is there for them. Battered women, there are other issues that I've seen happen, tremendous things. So they're in quotable agreement. Our contemplation of Him is a participation in His contemplation of Himself, Thomas Merton. And if you think this is just meant for monasteries, okay, this quote, "The most beautiful emotion we can experience is the mystical." Who do you think said that? Don't ever assume that scientists don't experience these things too. This is real. And now there's a whole bunch of supplemental material. I'm not going to go into it, but there's a form of Lectio Divina, which is a form of this prayer. There is relevant definitions. There are contemplative scripture that show when and how, etc., to do things. And then we had a discussion. So since we're running late on time, did they give up and walk away? Geez, we're in trouble. See, when you're contemplating, you can lose track of time. There are two main forms of research. One is research on those who have a religious practice. And that was what Koenig talked about. And you could live up to 7 years longer, etc. There's a separate batch of research on meditation in the term that's used in the context of the world, which is more narrow in the definition I gave. And that's been studied on mainly Tibetan monks, but that's secular. Okay, there's no theology. It's ridiculous not to combine those two important learning that we have from those two researches and take advantage of the religious and the meditation and put them together and enhance the healing. Tibetan research has shown that meditation enhances healing. One of the Harvard professors was the first to discover this, not this one. So the research is calling out for research. The research that has been done is calling out for more research on the benefits of having religious meditation. Because over 90% of the population is religious. So to not take advantage of that is crazy. So that's what I'm exploring in the networking here. And I would suggest that the scientists here start to think about this, because what happens is the unconscious unloads and informs the conscious mind of what happened that the unconscious is holding back, like the PTSD patient. So when you unload that unconscious, it becomes the unconscious mind. What's happening neuroscientifically? There have been studies on nuns that practice this. There are brain changes.
There is a presentation in the other room
There's a presentation.
on the effect of praying on the brain using fMRI. So it's
From neuroscience, if you go over there now, you'll catch a little bit of
before
it.
and after praying, 1 week after praying, without the changes in using fMRI. So it's really very
Absolutely. I'm sorry you missed that because of what we did. And he may still be doing it. I suggest you go talk to him. I worked with him in putting the contract together on the fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, of prayer's effect on the brain. Now that was discursive prayer. That was not contemplative. I want to do the contemplative study.
Okay.
Thank you from my
Thank you.
heart.